Hey guys, welcome back. Today we're looking at all kinds of under eye concealers for dark circles and for any of you who are dealing with texture under your eyes. I'm over 40. I also have oily combination skin on my face, but under my eyes it's dry, and I'm always trying to find concealers that won't emphasize that dryness and that will wear well throughout the day. So in doing this video, I feel like I've been looking at concealers forever, trying to compile my thoughts and photos and everything like that to give you guys a good idea of how I feel about each of these concealers. In this video, you're gonna see some very unflattering photos of my under eye area. I have genetic dark under eye circles. I have done a couple of under eye concealer videos where a few people have pointed out that I don't even have under eye dark circles, but I really do. A lot of times the lights and the big windows that I have in front of me wash those dark circles out. You know, we do need these lights when we're doing these videos because otherwise I would be sitting here in a shadow and you wouldn't be able to see the colors that I'm using. They're necessary, and so for that reason I'm going to show you what my dark circles do look like in reality. So I'm also going to direct you to the dark circles video if you want to see that, how to cover dark circles. And I'm going to direct you to my video called How to Apply Tarte Shape Tape if you're not a YouTuber. And the reason why I'm directing you to that is because that shows the method that I use to conceal my under eyes, and it's the method that I used for all of these concealers. I do have to set my under eye concealer because if I apply some and then just even look down for a second and back up, I will crease underneath my eyes. I just have little fine lines underneath. It's just the way I'm made. So that'll show you how I apply. I'm not one that does a big old triangle. I think that just gives you a lot of cakiness, and it does emphasize lines throughout the day. So if you want to see how I apply all of these, that video is going to show you that. So the first thing that I do before even applying eye cream is hydrate really, really well with an eye cream. I do that every single day and let it sink in for a little bit before I go in to apply anything at all. I am pretty hard on concealers because I feel like I do have a lot of issues going on between the dark circles and the texture and fine lines. So you may really like some that I don't particularly like for whatever reason, and you may hate some that I really like. Different strokes for different folks, but this is just my experience. We can get started, and I am first going to show you just the super unflattering pictures of my dark under eye circles. And you can see the purple discoloration, and that's why I usually use a peachy toned corrector. In this video, I'm not using any corrector so that you can see how they conceal without corrector. So the first two products are both Maybelline products, and I'm going to talk about them both at the end when I show you the photos, and I'm just going to talk about each really quickly. So the first is Maybelline Age Rewind, and it is $9.99 for 0.2 ounces of product, and it breaks down to $12.49 for 0.25 ounces. There's 6 shades, and I am in the shade Light for under my eyes. And it does have a slight scent to it. It's very thick and creamy in consistency. It's medium coverage, but it does build very well, and it has kind of a satin finish to it, I found. Now, I hate the sponge. It makes the cap really, really messy. I just twisted it up to get product out and took my brush and dipped it in to apply it underneath my eye. So the second product in this portion is the Maybelline Superstay Better Skin. This retails for $8.99 for 0.25 ounces. There are 6 shades, and I'm also in the shade Light in this. This has a doe foot applicator. This does have a faint scent with a thinnish consistency, and this has sheer to medium buildable coverage. In the photos on your left is the Better Skin Concealer, and on the right is the Age Rewind Concealer. The Age Rewind gave decent coverage, and it stayed looking good all day long. The Better Skin Concealer definitely needed 2 layers, but it did give natural looking coverage. I needed a 3rd dot of the Better Skin Concealer instead of just the typical 2 in the hollow of my tear trough. If you cut to the nighttime pictures, there was no wearing away and no creasing of the Age Rewind Concealer. It really did look good. Now, I tried this years ago. I didn't like it. Maybe I just hydrated better. So I really enjoyed the Age Rewind. It felt good all day also. The Better Skin didn't wear as well, and you can see it just looks really crinkly and dry underneath that eye. So, you know, looking at these two side by side, I may have thought that the Age Rewind looked pretty good as far as coverage goes, but in comparison, I realized how dry it actually looked next to the Age Rewind. The next two in the lineup are Amazing Cosmetics Amazing Concealer and It Bye Bye Under Eye. The first is Amazing Concealer, and it retails for $42 for 0.5 ounces of product, which of course breaks down to $21 for 0.25 ounces. And it comes in 16 shades. I am in the shade Light Golden. It is unscented and it is pretty darn thick. It gives full coverage and it is buildable and water resistant, which is a huge bonus if you're going anywhere that has anything to do with water and you want your under eye circles covered up. It Bye Bye Under Eye is $24 for 0.28 ounces, which breaks down to $21.42 for 25 ounces of product. It comes in 6 shades, and I have no idea. Oh, Neutral Medium is the shade that I am in. Now, despite this being neutral medium, I find this shade to be very, very pale. So I guess you could say that it brightened under my eye. What I like about It Bye Bye Under Eye is that it does have peptides, it has anti-aging ingredients, vitamins, hyaluronic acid, and collagen. It is very, very thick, even thicker than the Amazing Cosmetics concealer. With both of these, you need a tiny, tiny amount for any kind of coverage at all. When I went to set it, it got a little bit patchy. It's almost like it kind of sticks to the powder a little bit. That has always been my qualm with this. I've actually had both of these for a really long time. Amazing Cosmetics was my go-to concealer for years before I discovered Tarte Maracuja concealer, which is going to be in this a little bit down the line. What I found, if you notice in the pictures, is that towards the end of the day, you could really see this defining line under where the It Bye Bye Under Eye ended and the foundation began. It just didn't blend in as well as the Amazing did. They both covered decently. I just feel like the It Cosmetics didn't give as natural of a look, and it just had a little bit more of a patchy look to it, and that's how I've always felt about it. I've had them about the same amount of time, and this one is still almost full, while this one is almost empty, and there's a reason for that. I just always have felt like Amazing blended in a little bit more, and it was just a little bit trickier to work with. I feel like if you want something that's gonna blend in and look a little bit more natural while doing so, Amazing is the way to go for that. So that's just my opinion as someone who has texture under the eyes in addition to dark circles. The next pairing is Too Faced Born This Way and Urban Decay Naked Skin. Too Faced Born This Way retails for $28 for 0.23 ounces of product, and that breaks out to $30.43 for 0.25 ounces of product. It comes in 10 shades, and I am in the shade Light, and it has a doe foot applicator. It has a light to medium natural coverage. Urban Decay Naked Skin is $28 for 0.16 ounce. So despite the two of these looking very similar in size in the containers, there's not much product in this tube at all. For 0.25 ounces, it's $43.75. That is pretty darn pricey. There are 11 shades, and I'm also in the shade Light in this product. There's no scent. It is pretty thick and creamy and offers medium coverage, and it has a paddle shaped applicator. When you look in the pictures, the one on your left is the Urban Decay Naked Skin. It did not offer as much coverage on the darkest points of my under eye area. I had to really build it, and it did look more blended in once I put on that second coat. However, I did have a slight issue at the inner corner when I set it. I don't know what happened there. Whereas I found that the Too Faced Born This Way brightened pretty nicely. It can look a little ashy without corrector, but it's pretty hydrating and it wore pretty well. I didn't know what to expect from Too Faced Born This Way since it was pretty thin and kind of light in coverage, but it actually worked pretty well to give a natural looking coverage. The Urban Decay Naked Skin got kind of crinkly as the day went on. The next two are the two NARS products, the Radiant Creamy Concealer and the Soft Matte Complete Concealer. I hadn't intended to look at the Soft Matte because I just assumed it wouldn't be any good for my dry under eyes, but I don't know, at the last minute, I decided to check it out. The NARS Soft Matte Complete Concealer retails for $30 for 0.21 ounces of product. That breaks down to $35.71 for 0.25 ounces. It comes in 16 shades. I have the shade Canal. This is a very soft concealer. I don't find it to be super matte. It's a little bit more of a, I don't know, satiny finish, and it is unscented. It offers medium coverage. This is the one concealer that I used my fingers to apply and blend in as opposed to the sponge like in that Shape Tape video. The NARS Radiant Creamy Concealer is also $30 for 0.22 ounces, which is $34.09 for 0.25 ounces. It comes in 16 shades. I also have the shade Canal in this. They are a little bit different in terms of shade, but not too far off. It has a slight scent. It has a doe foot applicator. It is very thick. It offers medium to full coverage, and it is buildable. I also don't find this to be radiant. I find this to be more matte. The Soft Matte Complete Concealer looked really nice when first applied, which I was a little bit surprised about. I can't set it with my powder with a sponge. I find that it did nothing but accentuate all of my lines. So I had to use a brush and lightly set it with powder. Because of that, I found it kind of faded and creased a little bit right under the eyes and at that inner corner, but it actually looked somewhat decent. However, I really prefer the Soft Matte Complete Concealer to be much better for face concealing, spot concealing. It really looks skin-like on the face. I'm not overly thrilled with it as an under eye concealer just because I can't really set it as solidly as I need it to set, because it does give me just slight little creases under my eyes. The Radiant Creamy Concealer is probably the worst of this whole bunch for me. I know people love this concealer, but I hate it. I can't stand it. The two words in this concealer that describe it are just the antithesis of what this is if you have texture under your eyes. Radiant and creamy. It is dry and patchy under my eyes. I've tried it numerous ways and it never works out for me. I've never liked it. I tried it years ago. It didn't work out for me. I tried it now and it's still not working out for me. It looks obvious on the skin. It looks dry. It looks cakey. It shows a ton of texture and it doesn't wear well. Bottom line, I don't like it. The next two are Milani Retouch and Erased Light Lifting Concealer. That is a long name. And the Maybelline Fit Me. So the Milani retails for $9 for 0.24 ounces, and that breaks down to $9.38 for 0.25 ounces. And it has a slight scent. There are 6 shades, and I am in the shade Medium Light. It is medium buildable, and it is light, but it layers well. The Maybelline Fit Me retails for around $6.99 for 0.23 ounces, and that breaks down to $7.60 for 6 shades. And it has a doe foot applicator, and I am in the shade Sand. And it has a slight scent, a very light, thin consistency, and it blends in easily. The Milani has, again, this sponge tip applicator, which I just cannot stand. I don't know why people keep doing this. And this one is harder than the one that is on the Age Rewind. So I just squirt it out, dip my brush in, and apply it with a brush, just like I do with the Age Rewind. It lifts and brightens and conceals, but it gives a very natural coverage, and it wears very well, and it looks nice all day long. I really love the Milani concealer. I've talked about it a while back in a favorites video, and just how blown away I was by it. I feel like it's a really underrated product, and it's one that I keep on hand because if I'm wearing something that may not be quite full coverage, I really like to use that Milani concealer. The Maybelline Fit Me, it's one that I really thought that I liked somewhat decently until I did this testing. I found that while it blended in easily, it really made me look a little bit darker at that hollow of the tear trough. It was kind of more apparent under the eye than what I once thought, and it did emphasize my wrinkles a little bit, and during the day it wore at the edges and at the inner corner as well. So I thought I liked it a little bit more than I did, but when I ended up looking at it, I really didn't like it that much after all. So I really was not as thrilled as with Maybelline Fit Me as I once was. The next two are Lancome Effacerne, I think I'm saying that right, and then the Bare Minerals Bare Skin Complete Coverage Serum Concealer. That is a mouthful. So I'll talk about the Lancome first. It is $31 for 0.5 ounces of product, and that breaks down to $15.50 for 0.25 ounces. That's a really good buy for a department store product. There are 13 shades, and I am in the shade Camay, and it's unscented and waterproof. It's highly pigmented and very creamy, kind of sheer at first, but very buildable. And the Bare Serum is $21 for 0.20 ounces of product, and that breaks down to $26.25 for 0.25 ounces. There are 6 shades, and I am in the shade Light for under my eyes. It's unscented, very lightweight, and medium and buildable. I found both of these to be pretty hydrating. I feel like the Bare Minerals is slightly more hydrating than the Lancome, and I know both of these are known for hydration. So I'm going to talk about the Lancome one first, since it's a little bit more well known. People tend to rave about it. It's got just fantastic reviews. Now, keep in mind, I have some texture under my eyes and a lot of darkness. Now, it's hydrating, but compared to the Bare Minerals, you'll look in the photos, you can see slightly more wrinkles under my eyes with the Lancome and a little bit more darkness. I feel like I didn't get quite as much coverage and not as much brightening under my eyes, so while it did cover, it didn't brighten as much. So if you don't need quite as much brightening at that tear trough hollow, this would probably be just fine for you, and it is less expensive. And if you need something that's waterproof, this is going to be perfect. But if you really need a lot more brightening and a little bit more hydration, that's where I would go with the Bare Minerals, because I felt like this did a lot more brightening. It hydrated a little bit more. It wore a little bit better throughout the day. If you look at the end of the day, you can see a little bit more wear at that inner corner with the Lancome over on the left, and this didn't crease or fade or settle at all. So for that reason, I really like the Bare Minerals. I really love this. I wear this quite often, and it looks really natural too. They're both really good for different reasons. I don't think you can go wrong with either, and especially, you know, if you're like me, you're going to be wearing a corrector underneath them anyway, so either one could probably work. But I tend to wear the Bare Minerals one a lot more than the Lancome, just on a daily basis. So if you've watched my channel before, you probably knew these two were coming up, or were the last two remaining. I'm not sure. I've done a video comparison of both of these, and of course I have my Tarte Shape Tape video, but it is the Tarte Maracuja and Shape Tape. Some of you may have tried Shape Tape in the past and you hate it. Some of you may have tried the Maracuja or have never tried it, didn't know how they differ. I'll link both of those videos below and maybe in cards up here. I will just break these down one by one, and I'll show you pictures so you can kind of see the difference. First, I'm going to talk about the Maracuja, and it is $26 for 0.28 ounces of product, which breaks down to $23.21 for 0.25 ounces. There's 11 shades in this product. I am in the shade Light Medium Sand, which I only know because I know that the name does wear off, which drives me crazy. There is a very, very faint scent. I really don't notice it. It is full coverage. It is thick and creamy. A teeny tiny bit goes a long way with this product. I'm talking minute amount. It is waterproof. And creaseless once you set it. I would not say that this is creaseless without setting it, at least it's not for me. It can be tricky to work with. It takes a little bit longer to apply than Shape Tape does for me anyway. Shape Tape is $25 for 0.34 ounces, which breaks out to $18.38 for 14 shades. I think there's 14 shades of this right now. I am in light medium honey underneath my eyes. On my face, I use light medium. This has a slight floral scent. It's thick and creamy, yet very fluid, and it does blend very easily. It's lifting and brightening, and it smooths. I don't do the big triangle under my eyes. I dot it, as in that video that I linked you to. I think that's the problem that a lot of people have with this, is that they go in with that big triangle, they apply way too much, and it ends up cakey. It doesn't have to be cakey. Neither of these do. They cover super well with a tiny, tiny amount. These are going to give you enough coverage that you really don't need a corrector underneath. I do use a corrector because I find I need less concealer when I use a corrector. And I find both of them wear all day long and they look good as long as you hydrate well first. And that's my whole disclaimer I made at the beginning of the video, is just hydrating really, really well first. I find that they really don't look that different underneath the eye. You know, people that say that Tarte Shape Tape has made them look dry, I again say hydrate well and hydrate again if you need to. You know, if you really don't like this, this would be the next option I would tell you to go to if for some reason you've tried this and this just still doesn't work, no matter how you apply it. If you have texture under your eyes, nothing's going to take that texture away aside from filler or surgery. We have to work with what we have, and I think both of these can make the under eye area look really good. So that is an overview of all the concealers and what they look like under my eyes. And you know, some I thought I liked before and ended up not liking as much once I really saw what they were doing under my eyes. So I'll just give you a quick overview of which ones I think are worth it and which ones you should get if you have texture under your eyes or dark circles that you really need to cover. So I think Too Faced Born This Way is absolutely worth it if you have maybe moderately dark circles, but if you have texture under your eyes and you need some hydration. This one actually surprised me. I wasn't expecting to like it. I had actually heard it wasn't that great under the eyes. You know, this one is one, your mileage may vary, but for me, I actually ended up really liking it quite a bit. The Bare Skin Bare Minerals Serum Concealer and the Lancome Effaceur. But both of these are pretty darn hydrating and offer really nice coverage by the time that you build them up. Again, the Bare Minerals is going to be more brightening, and the Lancome is just straight coverage. It just really didn't give me a whole lot of brightening, but it's still a great concealer and it's waterproof. And two great drugstore options, the Milani Retouch and Erase and the Maybelline Age Rewind. I don't think you can go wrong with either one of these. You're going to get more full coverage from the Age Rewind, and from the Milani you're going to get more natural looking coverage, but you're still going to get really good coverage from it. And again, it's going to be really brightening, and both are great concealers and they're drugstore. And my two never fail me go-to concealers, Tarte Shape Tape and Tarte Maracuja Concealer. I just cannot live without either one of these in my life. I do tend to use the Shape Tape a little bit more. It's a little bit more effortless and easier to apply, less tricky to set with powder than the Shape Tape, but they're both really great. I really don't think you can go wrong with either one. I hope that helped you if you have dry, textured under eyes, aging under eyes, dark circles, whatever it may be. I know individual results are going to vary with concealers or any face products. If you like something that I don't like, or if you don't like something that I liked, everyone's going to be different. And again, hydrating and using a corrector, I think, are just super important if you have any kind of under eye issues going on. But again, I hope you found it helpful. Thank you so much for watching. And if you're not subscribed to my channel, please hit that subscribe button. I would love to have you back here again. And if you're not following me on my social media, I'll put that on the screen and in the description box. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.